Hi there. Been messing around with the controls on the camera, and I'm trying to drive with the mouse for a change. I'm not used to that anymore, but I bet it'll work better than me and the touchpad have been performing lately. Now, I just found another journal that's a little bit older. It's from last month, 9/27, and it was the first one of that day. This is going back into a time where things were as yet unresolved. And I was searching around, and this is one of those searching around journals, seeking to discover what was going on. And so I'll share it. It's a little bit personal, but hey, what's a person anyway, right? So it's called Illustration, Mind Purpose versus Heart Purpose. Why Embrace Pain? There's a strange sort of cryingness I feel right now in my soul that is coming from down deep. Not being sure what it is and not wanting to run away from it, as this soul has hard learned how self-defeating that is. I come to the journal to face it. What are you? Whence and why this pain? Now, I just had an interaction with my brother. For the huge part of this life, we have not been close, but recently we've gotten together, and I love that. We're coming into a better and closer understanding. And that is not to say that all is well, hunky-dory, and there are no rough patches yet to go through. I'm no longer fool enough to hold such expectations. It just is what it is, and that's good enough. That's our now. So, on my little motorhome, I had let both batteries expire and die at the same time. Mea culpa, I didn't run it at all through the winter. Not so bright. Oh well, anyway. Brother was going to jumpstart it so I could drive to AutoZone and replace them. Now instead, he knocks on my door wanting the keys. He went to town twice already in order to buy and install the batteries for me. He brings me the receipt. Pretty neat, huh? Now, there are two ways in life to pay for things: upfront or a sort of POD, pay upon death. When we do something for someone without being paid, it makes the good karma, the pay on death kind. Yet the other way is also perfectly legitimate, to pay for parts and for labor, and we did that. I thought about hinting about the two ways of payment, but reconsidered that. We're both in rather tight straits financially just now, so I can see how this way made sense for him. And so I was silent, honoring his free choice. Now, I go through recording all of that for one purpose: not to share it with anyone, but for myself, to find out if, in the writing, in the telling, I am given to understand more of what's bothering me. But I didn't feel that. So, likely this interaction isn't the source, though it may be a trigger for this cryingness. Something remains inside that wants to be said. So, to continue the search for the source of this, what feelings did this interaction with my brother leave me with? Well, good and less good. In my view, everything, even the bad stuff, it's all good. It just hurts. But that always turns out to be okay in the end. And it might be millennia sometimes before we come into this understanding about a particular situation. But we do. So far, I've found it always turns out to be fine. So, the okay part is that we are at least dealing straightforward and honestly with one another. He tells me what he wants. I tell him what feels right and what doesn't, and we both do that. We come to a point that feels good, or at least okay, to both of us, and we select that. And so far, it's working quite well, actually. We both used to be stuffers, so we kept everything to ourselves. Now, actually, it's a real blessing when something like this cryingness comes upon you. It's a sign of interior growth and development, of something hidden inside coming up to the surface to be seen. Things can migrate from the subconscious to the conscious mind in this way. Remember, absolutely everything is for the good. So I felt okay that we'd both been honest and direct. He was unafraid to tell me how he preferred that it go down, and I had no problem adapting to his choice. I felt a small twinge of a sort of regret or sadness that he didn't choose to give of his heart freely. Uh, but it was just a twinge. And by that, I mean I'm happy to cover all costs. I'm talking about paying labor. Respecting someone's free will choice is critically important, and he and I are doing that. And parenthetically, and who is to say my way is even right? The regret may have been that we weren't yet closer. I don't know. I have an interesting planetary configuration in my birth chart, in my natal astrology chart, that is being hit pretty hard by what's transiting through the skies these days. I was born with Saturn conjunct Neptune in Libra. Now, everything up there's been congregating in Libra recently, for one thing. And I said, list the planets. So it's been the Sun and Mercury and Venus and Saturn. And I don't remember if Mars is in there. A lot of stuff. Add to that Libra is one of the 4 cardinal signs, the season changing signs. Libra, Capricorn, Aries, and Cancer. Now, put transiting Pluto and Uranus in cardinal signs, square to one another, and that makes for some rather long-lasting and large, deep challenges. These outer planets are slow-moving, so they carry some weight. They hang around. They influence whole generations. Anyway, just due to the current sky tapestry as it interacts with my natal chart, I have some very particular things coming up. Now, we all do, of course. Each one's natal chart is what it is for unique reasons. Each one is going through very particular challenges in this time of the closing of such large and then larger cycles. 2012 is a very big deal, not just due to the Mayan calendar ending then, and not just to us on Earth. Okay, back to that cryingness. I'm getting too far away from it. I'm aware that I have a tendency to look at things too favorably. No, wait, how to say this? It's tricky. Things are truly as beautiful as I'm seeing them. The challenge lies in including wisdom, real wisdom, in the mix of those things interacting with individuality. Being practical. There lies the challenge. You see, we are really not individuals, but we are playing as one. And this is the chosen method for growth and learning, of expanding the everlasting beingness, of growing in love, if you will. Hard to put words to this, be in heart. So we tend to get into our parts that we're playing too much. We've also been programmed by the dark ones in charge these last centuries to think we are only this body, this mind, and nothing else. Well, we are awakening from that nonsense, but it is still a fine line that we travel. We are both this and that, both individual and not. Do you see? And if not, may I tell you that your heart does? So get back in there for a better look, if you like. So, my challenge in this life is one of balance. Saturn in Libra, seeking balance. The scales. So, perfect balance between being the divinity that we are, while at the same time playing our part. An interesting diorama. We've agreed in our higher selves that our physical selves shall not know too much too soon. If they did, then what would be the point of the play? What point reading a story you know everything about? Not so much. So there's that balance. Sometimes it seems impossible. Sometimes we kick at the pricks, as someone famous has said. We want things to be different. Well, I found first that that's usually mind doing that, and second, it's an indication we're too deep into our part. We're too identified with it. Time to back out a bit to seek balance by reconnecting with higher self, with Source, and with Gaia, with the Earth, to anchor down. Things really get into high gear, I have found, once we learn to embrace that which hurts. Free will is a huge thing, in spite of how things may seem on the surface of life, where free will is so often made mock of. In the ways that really count, free will looms large. We are not forced into what we don't choose for the self. Life doesn't work that way. Stay in heart, please. Oh, that's what I wrote. And I just felt it again. Now, some of you get back in heart. I heard some real mental objections to that. Stay within, or you lose the point, you lose the thread. This is a trek that mind cannot follow. I'd say don't bother to try, just stay centered. Well, for best results anyway. Now remember, we are multi-dimensional. We are not limited or restricted to 3D, not even. We're so much grander than that. By staying in mind, we tend to stay with 3D. That's what mind was created for, so that's fine. It's just choosing to be unnecessarily limited. Do you see? You can fly and soar beyond your 3D limitations, but there's a big price. You've got to leave the mind in the back seat to let go of it. Sure, it can come along, but when it pipes up, you're not to pay it much attention. When you do, that pulls you right out of heart center. If you'll just watch yourself, you can see this in action. Yes, it's subtle, but heck, so are you. That's what watch and observe is all about. So you notice these things. So anything that comes into our awareness that looks and sounds like a thought, let's feel free to ignore it. Just let it be a signal to focus more intently on heart. In heart. That's all. The rest will take care of itself. The magical ride will begin. But not until you trust this much, the letting go of the stranglehold on mind, of identifying with that. Just remember, you have a mind. You are not a mind, you have a mind. And it's for your use. It's not meant to control you. When it does, that's very convenient for the so-called controllers of this realm, the dark force. They jerk us around by both mind and emotions quite a lot. It's for their amusement, I guess, and to keep us in line as their herd of cattle. That's how a lot of these guys view us. They've got some growing to do. But let's not worry about them. That's their lookout for now. Ours is simply the self, and that's enough. I wish I could give you the sense of being me so you could feel what this journaling is like, and I know a lot of you do. You could teach me things. As I've said, I do this for me, not for you at all. The fact that it benefits you is due strictly to Source, to the divinity that's at the heart of each of us. I trust it is meant to work out that way. Still, I have firmly learned that if I just tend to my own self and follow where heart flow takes me, that's enough. I need not worry about someone else. And I'm going to stick a little aside in here and say I do pray for folks. It's not that I'm totally insensitive. So, there. It's magical. It really is. It's not understandable on this level, not by mind. You see, that's what I can't do for you. I can't take you into your own heart. Your free will is the important component there. You've got to make your own choices. This choosing to be in heart thing, it's no small deal. It takes real intent and strong determination before you find yourself there most of the time. One day it just happens. You look around and you realize you're seeing everything pretty much from the heart. You don't quite know when it happened. Your understandings about life and basically everything have somehow shifted. You're in the magical kingdom of heart. No one can do this for another. And you wouldn't want them to. Get the heck out of there. That's your space, huh? And what good would that do anyway? They wouldn't know how to get around once they were in there. We're all individually taught. We're loved that much. And making our way in here is part of the training we go through. And it's valuable. So back to what it's like to journal. I go along with the flow for a good while. Then suddenly I feel a certain one or group of you go off in a certain direction. And I feel the pull of that. Mostly I ignore such things, but at times it becomes a part of the flow to respond to it, to speak to those ones, to alert them that they've gone off the track. Then it becomes their choice what to do at that point, come back into heart or continue along the mind trail. And it doesn't matter to me, not one bit, what they do. That's the total respect for free will that I suggest would be good for us all to accept and adopt. Each one is worthy of having her free will accepted and respected. It's just that simple. If you're worthy, so is he. This helps us to let go our hold on each other, the attempt to control, which is like the Illuminati. So, sometimes it feels almost like sky herding, like we're all flowing along and some go out of the center, so I pause to round them back up. Pretty funny, pretty strange, I can tell you. It's a balance between being strictly in heart and being willing to reach out to those who step outside of it. No, the words aren't doing it. Oh well, I tried. Okay, and I've got a little pause here. The phone rang, and I've lost track of the cryingness feeling I was pursuing at the beginning. It's like that sometimes. You don't always get where you thought you were going. I trust the process, though. I know there is always benefit from journaling. It's simply built into it. and you can find this out yourself if you like. Over the long years of journaling, what I have observed is that in pursuing my own personal goals and growth, somehow, in some magical way, the journals bring benefits, not just to me. I don't know how this works or even how to do it. It's more accurate, I think, to say that the journals do me. I don't do them. Then it takes the inner vision to notice or decode the blessings that are there, and they're always there. Even for journals like this one that don't seem to go where they are pointed initially. Where they go, if I am surrendered enough to see it, is a beautiful thing. What this mind may have thought was the purpose just turns out not to have been that. Somehow, all along, there was another purpose hidden within the process that comes out only afterwards with some reflection, usually. In surrendering, this is done. The key to the whole process is surrender, to hold all things lightly, even your supposed purpose in doing something. Look within and look beyond. Don't be limited to 3D in your looking either. For that, just be in heart.